I don't see a lot of courage among filmmakers, and also in the topic they are touching. They are mostly speaking about the people who are, or if they are speaking about lower class, they are mostly the victims. If they are speaking about themselves, it means middle class, kind of educated kids. It's mostly like self-indulgent. So I rarely see the film when regarding it, I think, oh, that is really the hero of our times. It's touching the real topic, something which is important to people. But of course, you have the films like that sometimes, but not so many.
Why do you think that is? What would be the reason for this kind of lack of bravery from the director's point of view?
I don't know. I think that it's, that was this 30 years of post-communism, the democracy, the transition, some ambitions, expectations, and in the same time, a lot of support and focus was on the younger generation, in terms that they didn't feel responsible for what's going on. They felt that it's the generation of their parents who are like trying to make some money and to buy some apartments, to have some kind of the normal life. Consumption became very, very important, and now they are waking up with the feeling that the world which was made for them it's not good. They want to take advantage of many things as possible. They are connected to the virtual reality, to the virtual world, more even than to the real world. In the same time, they see that their planet is in danger, that their future is in danger. And I don't see yet some kind of the strong positions, strong ideas, what to do with that, what to do with my life, what to do, for others. If I love or if I hate, I'm depressed or I'm happy. I think that they didn't wake up somehow yet. So they are focusing on their own little struggles with the family issues, with the sexuality, with the relations, with the feeling of loneliness. These themes which are eternal, but which are not giving answer to what to do.
Do you think that cinema can be employed in the service of political or social change, to be sort of like this, transgress to all laws? I think it was in Paolo Pasolini's film, Love Meetings, where he was interviewing an Italian poet, Ungaretti, and he said that poetry is there to be for there to transgress all laws. Do you think that's?
I think that the poetry can transgress the law. I think so. Yes, it means regarding art, I'm very anarchistic, but it is political as well. It means it is just pushing boundaries, jumping over the borders, provoking, touching, finding the places where it really hurts and touching those places or hitting those places. I think that the cinema today, European cinema in general, most of that it's too bourgeois. It is too safe, Everybody are like circling in the comfort zone. If it goes out from the comfort zone, it becomes automatically political, even if it doesn't speak about the politics topics. The movie Parasites you've seen. It's the most political movie I've seen for a long time, and it doesn't speak politics. It's even, but it goes over the analysis of the classes. Somehow they show how everybody are trapped in this society we are living now.
But truth to say, also your 2017 movie Spur caused quite a lot of quite a lot of chaos, at least in Poland, where you were even named a traitor.
Yeah, Olga Tokarczuk also, our Nobel Prize, and we have plenty of citizens who like label traitors, the people who are telling truth. Well, that is, But it became political film. It means it wasn't meant as political film, but it was film which was from the beginning dealing with some really serious issue, the paternalistic, society, the women, especially older women, which are voiceless and invisible, and the cruelty toward the weakers, the people who are different, or to the animals, and a lot of things like that. But the main subject of that, it was the growing anger, the anger of the powerless. And this anger is something very positive, but it can be also very negative. It's like the fire, In the same time, I feel that this anger from both sides, the fear and anger, is the most growing emotions in our days over the world. So in this film, it's somehow shown, and not in the direct way. It was a mix of thriller, fairy tale, some kind of the moralistic tale, the ecological, feministic manifesto. So it was different things in this film. It's why it couldn't be perfect, It's not like the well-set film. It's the film which is going in all possible directions.
You said that you have this feeling that nowadays cinema became this sort of bourgeois. But throughout the cinema history, there have been times where directors came together and created some communities or movements, or wrote down manifestos, like after the First World War, before the Second, after the Second, French New Wave, Czech New Wave. Why do you think we don't have any specific or clear movement at the moment?
I think it will come. It's coming in some particular moment, of the history of cinema and the history of the society. It will come, I'm sure. I feel like that the growing, new talents who are asking the questions which we not asked. They just need to come together or to express it. But I'm quite optimistic. And every time when the times are difficult and dangerous, the cinema is better. I think that the cinema after the Second War was so powerful. There were so many personalities because those people have been their experience was the Second World War, which was something monumental in terms of the evil and existential disappointment with the humanity, and they gave them the substance and. Touching the reality, which is dramatic, gives you some substance, and you can deal with your own emotions also on different level. Make you mature. It means grown up, and the generation of today doesn't have this kind of the experience, and you can kind of feel it. I don't say that everybody has to be in concentration camp to do the good cinema, but knowing, the extremities makes you more radical, and I think that cinema has to be radical, even in entertainment. It has to be bold.
Mm-hmm. But that's for me raises another question that I'm going to introduce with referring to your experience working on House of Cards TV series. When you were shooting 5th season of House of Cards, that was the time when presidential elections was happening in United States. when Donald Trump, as a result, was elected. And during the 5th season of House of Cards, it was like scarily mimicking what was happening in the United States at that time. So that raises for me a long-standing question of mimesis versus anti-mimesis, whether art imitates life or life imitates art.
Yeah, the series has this power, you know, and the things are like going in both directions. When I was doing season 3 of House of Cards, I started really to wonder if it's not dangerous to show the politics, the Washington politics in this way, as some place where it's totally cynical, you know, and the murderous guy, ambitious guy can run, you know, the country. And if it doesn't push up the movements or feelings which are populist, when the people don't believe in politicians and politics and democracy, it's always dangerous, that it opens some door. And I don't say that Trump happened because of House of Cards, but somehow, you know, it became for people acceptable to imagine that the president can be such an asshole. And after the Trump's elections happened, and he was, in comparison with our character, Kevin Spacey's Frank Underwood, he was much worse, you know. He was more brutal, he was more illiterate, he was ignorant, he was totally cynical, he didn't care about, you know, anything. He even didn't keep the appearances. He was lying every day, you know, openly, and the people accepted it, and accept till now. So it was scary to see that the characters comes out from the screen and becomes like, and grows, you know, and becomes like some kind of golem, right? Some kind of monstrum. It's very interesting experience. And in Ukraine now you have, you know, the guy who was the president in the TV series, and he is elected by like 70 or I don't know how many % of the people, believing that if he was a good actor, he will be a good president as well. And, you know, poor guy crashed already with the reality, you know, because another fictional figure, Donald Trump, like put him down. So I have impressions really that we are not living in reality, but in some kind, you know, of global TV series.
But it could relate really to the nowadays life when we are living in this sort of schizophrenic world. Our personalities and identities are separated between different social networks and real life communication and between different social groups.
So yes, that is the very dark side of the internet revolution, you know, and social media, that the people are not communicating anymore. Everybody is in their bubble, and the society is divided first on two, like one who are for inclusion and other who are for exclusion, the big cities and the countryside, you know, the richer and poor, men and women, and this division goes like sometimes through the family table, and also on small bubbles of the people who are communicating only in the circle and practically don't know what's going on in another part of the world. We lost the objective media, we lost trust in objective media, we lost some kind of agora, it means the place where everybody meets and exchange the informations and, you know, and has some authorities. You don't have the global authorities anymore. Somebody is loved, but somebody is hated. You know, Olga Tokarczuk won the Nobel Prize a week ago, and normally, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it will be like celebration for entire country. And now half of the country is ecstatic about it, and half of the country says that he is anti-Polish and has to be burned on the stake.
But how do you feel about, you recently in Poland had parliament elections?
But we lost the elections, but not so bad as it was expected. It means the Senate is a little ours, And if any senator will be not corrupted, which I hope, because it will be shame, really. I don't know if somebody will decide to sell himself or herself. It stops a bit or slows down a bit this, destruction of the judiciary and another destruction they've been doing, and also Law and Justice, the ruling party, the governing party, they gave so much to the people in terms of cash money, because they've been really bribing people. The people receive enormous amount of cash just before the elections, like for the children, for the all the elderlies, for many money, a lot of money, and also the public television, which covers most of the country and is the most popular still. It's really like Goebbels' propaganda. I've never seen something, even during communist times. They never did it in such a brutal, cynical, and hateful way. So regarding all that, the number of seats they had is not so big. They thought that they will have constitutional majority like Orban has, or at least enough of people to turn down the presidential veto. They don't have it. So now the game is open still, because maybe presidential elections will be in May next year, and if they were lost, they will be lost. The game is open. Let's see. Anyway, it is an interesting time, and in popular votes, the opposition won. It means more people was voting the opposition than the ruling party. Only the way it's counted, it's a bit like similar situation like in US with popular votes. But it is important for people to feel we are not in minority. It's more of us. We just don't know how to organize to win. So now it will be the task to the opposition party to organize. If they were able to do it, I don't know. The politicians are not like the smartest people in the society. It's the question of the language and how to present the values, which I don't believe are totally abandoned by the people who are hateful. But the populist is just the answer to some problems which are existing, the fears of the people and the change, the big change which is going on, the revolutions. It's several revolutions running on in the same time, and internet revolution is probably the most changing everything, the communication, the circulation of the information and the politics, but also gender revolution, which means that, that the men will be not as powerful as they want to, and the demography will change. And climate catastrophe and the globalization, which became, I think, with the wild capitalism, dangerous reality. All that, make that the people are afraid that their life will be worse and worse, and no one is giving explanation or solutions to the situation except of populists who are telling, we know what to do, make America great again. Make Latvia great again, right? And it will be just build the walls, close yourself in some kind of the cage, and you will be safe with us. So it is not very good answer, but it's only easy answer which exists on the market. So the people are picking it up before the big crisis will come, which probably it will.
Years ago, with the revolution of television, eventually, of course, it became a powerful tool of propaganda. And do you feel that television, in its many forms nowadays, and with television I mean also online streaming platforms, do you feel that it can be as well as tool of propaganda as much as also a way how to talk to the public about topical issues, for example, that House of Cards did in a way? It raised sort of questions that maybe someone before that didn't think of.
Well, you know what, it may be. The problem is economy, and that those important streaming platforms are commercial. And when you have polarized society, the commercial broadcasting is trying to avoid the politics, because touching the hot political subjects, they are losing the half of the viewers. Or they are liberal and that they have, the right against them, or the opposite, and because it's less or more in most of the countries, half-half, so they rather avoid this kind of the things, and they're going to the genres which are safe. So I don't see, that the revolution will come like the intellectual, ideological revolution will come from the streaming platforms. No, they will try to put people rather to sleep and to entertain them. Except if it will raise some platforms which has the identity, but that is the question of money, Money, it needs a lot of money. Also, investigative journalists. I did the movie Mr. Jones, which one of the main topic of this film is exactly the honesty and the objectivity of medias, and how it's difficult and how it's dangerous, and also costly. You have less and less of correspondence, foreign correspondence in the country, even the correspondence on the ground. The paper media don't have the money to pay it. Internet doesn't need it because everything goes fast. So fake news are much more economically interesting.
Mm-hmm. But years ago, when you first moved from cinema, when you moved from cinema and got first opportunity to direct TV series, so to say, you moved in a way from European film tradition to Hollywood's TV series tradition. What was your main surprise starting to?
When I went to Hollywood?
Yeah.
Well, nothing special. It means corporations. I had to learn it a bit, but the big corporation wasn't so very different from communist corporation. So I knew it was, the corporation is always ruled by fear. The people who are on the top, they are afraid to lose their position, so they have to play something, they have to act, they have to pretend. They are also not courageous, because if you are taking risk, you can lose. When you are doing nothing, you are not losing, because you are doing nothing. So it was very much the same personal strategy as in communist, for example, I don't know, Minister of Culture or something. But also I met a lot of very creative people, It means it's a pool of very talented people, and they're great stories also. So it wasn't negative for me, this experience. But after cinema started to drift toward some kind of the, some kind of the franchises, and interesting things started to happen on television, cable television, and later VOD television. So I tried to work in this field, and it was a very interesting experience, which taught me a lot, also about American reality, because on the beginning they've been much more courageous, like for example the series like David Simon's The Wire of Tremere will be difficult to finance today, frankly. But in the beginning of century, HBO gave the pretty a lot of freedom to that, and I would never know so much about American city if I didn't work on those series. So I'm very grateful to David and to this opportunity. And after I did some interesting things like House of Cards or The Killing and others. But I like more miniseries. Miniseries is the format which I can control artistically, and in the same time it gives me the space to tell the story in more complex way.
And my last question, in your dystopian Netflix series, 1983, you imagine the Poland where communism never fell. So,
But somehow it didn't, you know. Now I see it. Yes.
yeah, judging like from the political situation in some areas. But could you imagine a situation if the cinema wouldn't have been created? Like what the world would be like?
If cinema didn't exist, it would be some form of the audiovisual storytelling. It's with the development of the technique, it was necessary to come. If not, you have theater or some kind of the things and the novels and the literature. The people always wanted to tell story and listen to the stories, so that is kind of eternal need.